The views expressed on the Nova Society are those of the panelists and guests and do not necessarily reflect the views or opinions of the Phoenix Research Institute or any institution which any panel member is associated. Welcome back to the Nova Society, a space where dialogue deepens understanding and civic responsibility comes to life. I'm Dr. Mark Bound, joined by our regular panel, Dr. Scott Gershwer and Dr. Brooklyn Ann Weldon. Together, we'll unpack the stories that matter most, exploring the headlines, the history, and the big ideas shaping today's conversations. Let's dive in and hear what the panel has for us today.
And we have a question from Barry, who comes from Johannesburg, South Africa. And Barry writes, since South Africa has been eliminated from the World Cup, I've finally had time to catch up on your episodes. And I have to say, binge listening gives a very different kind of clarity. I've actually started sorting the downloaded episodes into themes so I can evaluate whether there's a consistent position across your discussions. So far, my little research project suggests that each of you is remarkably consistent in tone and outlook, no matter the topic. But here's what I'm really curious about. You've talked at length about American politics after Trump, and you've talked about American foreign policy after Trump. What you haven't done, at least as far as I can tell, is bring those two conversations together. So here's my question. What does each of you see as the most likely shape of American democracy in the post-Trump era? And how does that emerging framework fit into the broader landscape of international relations? In the interest of full disclosure, I am an associate professor of international relations at the University of Johannesburg. Oh, wow. Thank you very much, Barry. Actually, that's an excellent question, and I have not even thought of what your question, my answer to your question might be. Mark Scott, I hope you have thoughts because I actually don't.
Well, I'm sure there's part of this that we differ on, Mark and I. Because I think my view of the post-Trump world and his view of the post-Trump world is very different. How long it's going to take to recover from, I believe the timelines are very different. How long this is going to last, if there is a backlash against Trump and Trumpism, which I think is coming and is evident around the world, what is it going to shape? How is it going to shape American foreign policy? For one thing, I would say that there should be an American foreign policy. Like, we should actually have policies. That means somebody sat down and thought about what our objectives are as a nation and for the world, and what we want to accomplish, and how we're going to go about that, what the strategy and tactics are. There's none of that has been done recently. And the only thing that I would say about Biden's foreign policy in that interim period was that I think I always got the sense that Biden wanted to prove that democracy is not chaos, and that we weren't going to swing wildly back between right and left, or this policy or that policy, and that he kept things more or less consistent in an attempt to move slowly into whatever was going to be next, without the idea that we're just going to change all of Trump's policies, because he kept tariffs on, he kept our China policy this more or less the same. Trump has changed it. Trump 1 to Trump 2 are more different than Trump 1 to Biden. And I think that that's really an interesting point, because Trump seems to be repudiating a lot of the things that he accomplished, or at least tried to accomplish, in his first term and in his second term. And I'm not really sure why that is. I'm not getting into the mind of the man, but it does seem to me that a lot of our, like, for example, he allowed the Mexico, the USMCA trade deal with China, with Mexico and Canada to expire, and has said, well, it's a terrible deal, we're going to redo it. He negotiated that deal. That was done in Trump 1, So I'm not really sure, like, where you're coming from there exactly. But if you don't like the deal, that's fine. go do another one. But understand this, this is a nation that runs on oil content right now and for the foreseeable future. We get our oil from those two countries. Brooklyn lives in a place in upstate New York where the electricity comes from Canada, does not come from the United States. If Mark Carney wants to shut her electricity off, he could do it with a switch. And a lot of people in the United States are in that same position. We need to be a little bit more perhaps respectful in our foreign policy and understand what other people's objectives and goals are and try to work with them rather than against them all the time. We should not have a foreign policy where we reject our friends and embrace our enemies. That's certainly counterintuitive, a little bizarre to say the least, and certainly nothing that anybody could have really expected an American president to do, but we did. We have switched sides in the Cold War. We are on the verge of turning our backs on Israel in favor of the Palestinians. We have changed our policy on a number of, like we're selling out Taiwan to the Chinese. There's a whole bunch of things that we're doing now that we've never wanted to do before. And I think we need to go back and look at why we wanted to do what we did before, what the price was of it. Was it too high, as Trump says? I always say that, right? I agree with that. I've been to European airports and like thought, oh my God, this is so luxurious. Why can't we have cool stuff like that here? Why can't we have super fast trains that run smoothly rather than Amtrak, which will take your teeth out on the way from New York to Baltimore? Why can't we do the things why can't we do what we used to do the last time we built a bridge from Manhattan to New Jersey? It was like 1937. Why can't we do the things that we used to do? Why can't we add more states? Why are we stuck at 50 for so long? Why haven't we added more states? The Trump wants to add Venezuela as a state. I would say let's do Puerto Rico and Washington, D.C. first. And if you want to even it out in some way, combine the two Dakotas and maybe Wyoming and Montana and make that 2 states instead of 4. But again, these are political things that gets caught up in that, but they're also sensible. I mean, there's more people in my neighborhood in Brooklyn than there are in Wyoming. So, my high school was bigger than some of the cities there. So again, there's a lot going on in the country and in the world that we need to address. And I'll just say that we need a more thoughtful approach to it. I can't say what that will be, but I think we need more thought.
Yes, we definitely need more thought. Now, to one of Scott's points, as he was mentioning, Trump 1 and Trump 2 look completely different. And I'm going to offer a theory as to why that is. Because in Trump 1, he actually had some people that had some brains that were in his administration and put the guardrails on him. He had, even though he said they were the worst of the worst when he was firing them, although he loved them when they were working for him, he had people that would basically look at him and say, you can't do that. Or that's the wrong move. Right now, all he's got is a bunch of people that nod their heads and say, yeah, okay, fine. And I think that's why you're starting to see, the change from Trump 1 to Trump 2. Trump 1 was a product of the people that he had under him that he didn't understand how to deal with. Trump 2 is the real Trump. That's real Trump. That's Trump unleashed because he's got nobody in his administration who's going to say, no, sir, you can't do that. So to me, that's my theory as to why this is. What does, and Scott's also correct in the fact that him and I have a totally different idea of where this goes. I don't see American democracy returning to anything close to being normal for quite some time. I remember, 2-3 years ago, I said, yeah, maybe 2036. I think I was overly optimistic because it isn't just the person in power. It isn't just the administration. It's the attitude of the nation. And let's remember, this attitude has now existed and has been out in the open. Now, I truly believe that it's always existed. I think you've always had the neo-Nazis. I think you've always had the fascists. I think you've always had the rednecks. I think you've always had the grievance people. I think they've always been there, but they were always in the back burner. The evangelicals were always there, but they were kind of in the back burner. Yeah, they talked a lot. People kind of ignored them, move on. But they've been given license. They've been given permission now. And it's been 10 years from Trump 1 all the way through. And a lot of people could say that was because of the Obama presidency. We elected a black man that people just simply could not accept. So we could even say that this has been going on since Obama's. We could say that this has been boiling up for the last 20 years. And it's not going to go away because the attitude of the American people is basically set. Yes, we have people that want to go back to the way it used to be. But you have too many people that are just, unsatisfied with the way it used to be because they have a grievance about this. And these are the people that are that you hear from the most. These are the people that are in Trump's base. These are the people in the cult. So to get America back to the democracy that it used to be, you've got to change that mindset. You've got to change that attitude. And I don't see that changing anytime soon. I really don't, because as I've always said, it's easy to defeat a country. It's impossible to defeat an idea. This has become an ideology within the United States. Now, the only question is how much influence will that ideology have on our politics? And it may go away, but I really don't think so. I don't think it would. I don't think it will. About 3
look
years
at
ago.
the neo-Nazi. Oh, sorry. I was just going to say, look at the neo-Nazis, I'm so sorry, the American Nazis in Madison Square Garden, the American Nazi Party. I mean, they were out in the open also.
Absolutely. And the fact is and I've said this in classes and lectures and this, we defeated Germany. We did not defeat Nazism because it still exists today. We defeated the Confederacy. We did not defeat separatists. Nor did we defeat, people that are racist. We didn't defeat that. That's an attitude within people. So you've got to understand, and you're a professor of international relations. I'm sure you do. You cannot go ideology against the system. The system sometimes takes its cue from the ideology, but even if the system changes, the ideology may stay the same. It may be totally different than each other. How this? Yeah.
Go on. Yeah,
no, go ahead.
On.
No, go ahead.
I got nothing.
I got nothing.
I got nothing. I had a question for Johannesburg.
Okay.
Because one of the issues that I think is really prominent that's going on in our country right now is this idea of that we make decisions, or we have policies, or we have ideas based on lies and rumors and fake things and all kinds of crazy stuff, right? And so Trump had the president of South Africa in the Oval Office and harangued him about the fact that white people are so downtrodden there. The only people that we're allowing to immigrate into this country right now are white South Africans. And so, I would ask our listener here to tell us what your perspective is. That's I would love to hear that from South Africa and from the foreign policy objectives of South Africa, which is a country that has joined in with the sort of BRICS coalition to try to raise themselves to a level perhaps that the United States has achieved a long time ago, as far as being a economic, globally dominant superpower. And that by creating these coalitions and bandwagoning a group of other countries together that are sort of mid, but together have some power, what are the objectives that you would have? Because that's really where it's got to start. It's got to start from objectives, and it's got to start from a certain amount of clarity, factual, if not moral clarity. Like, and we don't even have factual clarity here. We are based on lies.
Again, I will definitely be reaching out to Barry to see if we could get him on, because I would love to hear that perspective as well. But I will ask you this, Barry. South Africa transitioned from apartheid, but has the attitude totally transformed in South Africa about apartheid? Or do you still have those people there that believe apartheid was a good thing? And now, I don't know. I haven't been to South Africa in quite some time, but I would think that probably you've got a number of people that believe that apartheid was the way to go, because you didn't defeat the idea. You defeated you changed the system, but the idea remained. So my comment is when you ask about democracy in the United States, I think it holds on. I'm a firm believer that the system bends but does not break, and there's going to be a lot of that going on in the future. My greatest fear is that we're going to be seeing violence, because once those that felt empowered are out of power and a lot of this stuff starts getting changed, my great fear is that usually these are the people that take up arms. These are the people that, create the violence. What does this mean for international relations? I think it's going to depend on the country that we're talking about. We've already seen a lot of countries that are making moves to basically put the United States on a back burner. And I think, personally, that's the proper move. If I was the head of a government in Europe, I'd say, okay, the United States is pretty much a mess. Let's ignore them as much as possible. We'll bring them in when they're useful to us, like when we want them to buy our stuff because they're really good at that. But beyond that, they're really inconsequential. That would be my attitude. I take the Mark Carney attitude of Canada. I'm trying to be nice to you, but you're being an asshole. Okay, I'll go to India. I'll go to China. I'll go to the European Union. I'll go to all these other places. I'll just work around you. And I think that's something that's really was shown when we're talking about international relations. It not only was what we did to destroy our reputation and destroy our international relations. What it showed was that a guy like Mark Carney, who's a pretty smart guy, said, hey, you know what, guys? We can work around them. They aren't the end-all, be-all. We can actually work around them and be perfectly fine. And they're beginning to see that is the truth. So the mythology of our star-spangled banner greatness basically was thwarted by our own stupid moves when it came to foreign policy and the way that we deal with other countries. So for me, internally, we got problems. We got massive problems because internally the ideology that exists. Again, I'm not saying that it's overnight. It is not overnight. This has existed for decades, if not since our inception. Foreign policy wise, this is going to be new. We got very used to post-World War II and how powerful we were. And the rest of the world was very happy to allow us to believe that. But I can't, excuse me, I don't know I can't remember who said it. Probably a Roman guy, Roman emperor. But you're in power because people believe you're in power, that you're powerful. Once they stop believing it, you're out.
That's actually that's a quote from one of my favorite movies, Miller's Crossing.
Oh, Miller's Crossing. I knew. See, I knew it was
it's
probably
a Coen
Roman
Brothers
guy.
It's a Coen Brothers movie, and the top aide to a crooked politician / mobster tells that to his boss.
Yeah, and it's true. You're only as powerful as people believe that you are, and I think the world is beginning to look at us and saying, "Wow." I mean, we sure as hell shown that our military isn't capable of a lot of things that we say we can. I saw the other day that who was it, Hegseth or somebody wants to nominate Trump for the Peace Prize again, and it was a meme. And I understand it was a meme, but it said, "Hey, he's won the war in Iran 38 times, and he's not even done yet." It was like, yeah, we're a joke. We become a joke.
And Trump also wants to nominate himself and both his sons for congressional medals of honor.
Yeah,
I think. And
Yeah,
well, I was
mean,
also thinking about whether or not there is really a post-Trump era. I think it depends on what happens in both with this upcoming midterm and in 2028, as well as 2022 or
clearly.
2032 as far as the president goes. And I also think it will depend on what happens with our petroleum situation. We have to get past what happens with Hormuz and whether we run out of oil. I mean, I actually cannot imagine that is an actual reality that would actually happen. But I mean, I suppose that is a possibility. I mean, I can't fathom that that's possible, but
I don't think any of us ever thought that we would have to wear masks and stay indoors and all that kind of stuff. And COVID happens in 2020. Certainly nothing that I was on my radar screen before that. I used to see Asian people wearing masks in airports and stuff like that and think to myself, oh boy, it must suck living in a place like that. And it happened to us. And we saw, miles of cars lined up to get food. And, we've seen all kinds of like crazy, unprecedented things here since Trump has entered the scene. I mean, it wouldn't have surprised me this weekend if Trump had gone to the National Archives and insisted on signing the Declaration of Independence that they have there. That wouldn't have shocked me at all, because he's more patriotic than any of those guys were, so he could totally justify that. And I'm sure the Republicans would have let him get away with that. But we need to, I think before we could talk about what happens, we need to talk about what we are, who we want to be, and what our objectives are. To me, it seems fairly simple. We want to live in a peaceful world where people do trade back and forth, and, comparative advantage rules the day as far as markets are concerned. And if you have an advantage over one thing and somebody else has an advantage over another, you trade with one another so that you can both enjoy it, and there's cooperation and peace in the world. Those are things I think we all probably can agree across the world that we want. But there's a small faction of people in this country who don't want that, and they seem to be the ones who are in charge right now. I hope that we can recover from it soon. But the sooner that other people see this, the better. I had an argument with a group of friends of mine from college this weekend because all I wanted them to do was say that these guys who were marching in Washington, D.C., who surrounded that poor girl on the subway there, that this is wrong. I'm not saying that they don't have the right to do it. I'm not suggesting that anybody arrest them. But they should be roundly condemned. They should be put down. They should be forced by public acclaim, not the law, back into the woodwork from where they came. We need to be clear about what this country is about, and it's not about white people who speak English and worship Jesus Christ. It is a more pluralistic place than that. And that's again, a debate that we need to have, that we've had before. And again, we need to have it again and reaffirm it. And we're not doing that because we have a president who thinks that white supremacists are just the same kind of fine people that the people on the other side are.
Yep.
And we need to get past that.
So yeah, Barry, to me, it's the attitude. And don't be surprised. I'm going to reach out to you, see if we can get you to come on, tell us, the perspective of somebody from South Africa, how you see us. And I asked the question, what is the attitude toward apartheid? Is it gone in South Africa? And if not, how long do you think it'll take before it will be gone? Will it ever be gone? And ideas stay for a very long time. And the fact is that this Pandora's box was opened up, and it's almost impossible to get it back in. And it's a different world. It is a completely different world. And in Trump too, I think because of, and again, it's just a theory of mine, because of the people that are behind him now are just, yes people and, not competent. I mean, you look at his first cabinet, there's some competent people in that damn cabinet. There are some good people. Not John Huntsman, our favorite person here on the podcast, but there was some but there was some real competent people in there. And the fact is that now he doesn't have that. Now he's got this clown show.
Hegseth and Rubio, who's a complete sellout, and Vance, who has said some of the rudest things in the world about Trump, but is now his butt boy, and Miller and the rest of them, but Congress as well, the Supreme Court as well. I mean, this whole thing was not supposed to. There was supposed to be checks and balances, but it only works if the party that has the ability to check it chooses to do it.
Correct.
And if they don't, they don't.
As I understand, also people. I don't know if it was the chief of staff in the first administration.
Like 6 of them, right?
Yeah, which one?
Yeah, I don't remember. One of the I can envision his face, but I can't remember his name. I would recognize his name if you said
Mulvaney?
it. No.
Reince Priebus?
No. He was one of the later people.
General Kelly?
Kelly?
Yes. He would take, I think it was he. It might have been a different person. He would take items off Trump's desk so he would never see them. Yeah.
Sounds like Kelly.
Yeah, and they would ensure that Trump was, as you said, also by saying, well, you can't do this and you can't do that. And no, you can't bomb North Korea. No, you can't say these things. No, you can't do this. You can't do that. And now, of course, everybody has to sign a loyalty oath. And it has nothing to do with, look at the Pulte, who's now the head of DNI, as well as still being the head of the housing. You're supposed to have massive amounts of security and intelligence experience, and the man has none and can't get a security clearance probably, but he's going to be acting, and he is acting. And over the weekend they fired, or he fired because Trump wanted him to, much of the U.S. Intelligence agency. Seasoned people, making us far less safe than we were before. Now they're going to replace them, presumably, with more people who have no idea what they're doing, who can all pass a loyalty test.
Well, let me just say this. If you want to know, Barry, what a shit show the Trump show is, and you mentioned the World Cup. The World Cup has been a joy here in the United States, absolutely a joy. I was so impressed with how the fans in Los Angeles reacted to the team from Iran, as respectful as they were. In fact, the Iranian team left a note basically saying, thank you, for having us here and letting us leave with dignity. I mean, that really, it's just been a joy. Now we have a controversy because Trump inserted himself on a red card supposedly given to an American player, called the head of FIFA, and supposedly, according to Trump, got him to overturn the ruling so the kid can play now. That is tainted. So everything the Trump shit show touches is tainted. And I saw yesterday, I was watching the games because I've been watching them faithfully here. England just had one of their players was red carded, so is out for the next game. And now the question is going to be very simply, will the British Prime Minister make that phone call? Everything he touches, everything he does turns into a shit show, even the joy of the World Cup. So there we have it. And that's all the time we have for today's episode. The Nova Society is a production of Nova Society Media, a division of the Phoenix Research Institute. We want to thank our production partners, Buzzsprout, who hosts the Nova Society, Audacity, our editing team, Apple Podcasts, the largest source of podcast and music online, Spotify, the most popular platform for the Nova Society, and iHeartRadio, your destination for all things music and podcasting. The Nova Society is available on all of these and other quality platforms listed in our description. And most importantly, we want to thank you, our listeners. Without your support, the Nova Society could not be possible. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing on the platform of your choice. It's easy, it's free, and helps our channel grow. For questions or comments, you can reach us at nova.society.podcast@gmail.com. So on behalf of Dr. Brooklyn Ann Weldon, Dr. Scott Gershworth, and all of our production partners here at the Nova Society, I'm Dr. Mark Bound. Remember, the true power of society is knowledge. Thank you for listening, and we hope to see you again next time.
Hi, everyone. This is JJ, the co-founder of Good Pods. If you haven't heard of it yet, Good Pods is like Goodreads or Instagram, but for podcasts. It's new, it's social, it's different, and it's growing really fast. There are more than 2 million podcasts, and we know that it is impossible to figure out what to listen to. On Good Pods, you follow your friends and podcasters to see what they like. That is the #1 way to discover new shows and episodes. You can find Good Pods on the web or download the app. Happy listening!